Ready to go.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our How to Give. We are really excited to be talking with three really incredible community leaders. And I really appreciate the topic today because in the past, when we've talked about a number of things in these How to Give conversations, we've talked about how to get your kids involved in giving, and we've talked about how to think about your investment accounts and how to give through your DAF and how to include your community. And I think all those things are beautiful. Today, what we're talking about, though, are some of the lesser known topics that are just imperative, issues that are imperative to our community that don't always get the attention that they deserve. And so I'm super grateful to have Julie and Summer and Perry here with us today to be talking about some of these categories, these really important issues that are addressed, that are affecting Central Texas, and also how we can better support the nonprofits that are working in these issues. So before I ask Julie and Perry and Summer to introduce themselves, I'm going to do just that brief thing on Amplify and on I Live Here, I Give Here, just as a reminder. So I Live Here, I Give Here is a nonprofit here in Central Texas, and our work is really to get people to give back. And we're doing that by making sure that people have the connections that they really need to have with the issues that they care about, making sure that people know where to go to learn about those issues and how to get involved with those issues. And our vision is we really would like to see every single Central Texan engaged in giving back, whether that's through their time, and we're going to talk about the T's now, but all the different ways that you can give back. And there are so many ways that people can give back here in Central Texas. We talk a lot here at I Live Here, I Give Here about the five T's of giving, because one of the things that we recognize is not everybody can give in the same way, right? I can give $10 a month to KUT and I can volunteer with a political campaign, but I don't have a lot of testimony around things. And so we're super adamant that however you give back, whether it's your money or your time or your talent, it's all important. So there are five T's of giving. I think there used to be three. We just keep adding T's. But there's time. This is, whether you are on a board of directors, whether you are volunteering, whether you are making calls to people, whether you're writing emails, this is you really giving back your time. Treasure is, of course, your money, whether that is $5 a month or $5 million. Nonprofits will take whatever you can give and will be grateful for whatever you can give. There's talent. This is your specific skills and expertise. And I know that there are brilliant people on this call who are giving their specific skills and expertise. I know that Summer has a great background working with military families, and she gives that expertise back, which is just phenomenal. I love that. There's testimony. That's talking about things that have impacted you, nonprofits you've worked with, nonprofits that have helped you, and really telling people about the impact that those nonprofits have had on you and your life. And then there's ties, whether you are sharing a nonprofit's social post, whether you are sending emails to people about the experience you had volunteering at Tree Folks. It's letting people know that, letting your network know that the work that you are doing giving back is important and you would like other people to do the same. So many ways to give back. We feel so strongly about that. Thank you for letting me talk about the five T's. So just briefly, we yesterday, Amplify Austin Day Early Giving opened. Amplify Austin Day is the biggest program of I Live Here, I Give Here. And there are so many ways that people can get involved. You can become a fundraising champion. And what that means is that you know what nonprofit you care the most about. And you do that thing where you let other people know and you say, I have a fundraising page. Please give money to this pet nonprofit or this kid nonprofit or this parks nonprofit, because this is what I really care about. And by creating a fundraising page, by becoming a fundraising champion, you bring in funds that that nonprofit would not have. You can also just make a donation yourself. I went online and gave money yesterday. It was very easy and fun. And it's a little bit as my mom says, like shopping. You can pick multiple nonprofits to make a gift to in one transaction. And then finally, you can share the love. You can talk about Amplify Us today on your social media, in your email, any ways that you want to talk about it. I was on TV yesterday with a very nice young man named Will at KXAN talking about Amplify Austin today, about how early giving had started. And do you know what I saw yesterday? Kristen was telling me that um, one of our nonprofits has already raised over $25,000 in the first day of Amplify Us today. What? So, any great stuff happening out there? Please participate in Amplify Austin Day this year. Oh gosh, still other ways. Companies can sponsor the day, and more than half of every sponsorship dollar goes directly to the nonprofits through the Amplify Fund. But companies can also just get their employees to give back. They can create a page and say, hey guys, we're doing this. Um, Everybody come and give back to the nonprofits you care about through our giving page. And there's a leaderboard so companies can compete, which they love. Or companies can be a give back partner. So this year we have Amy's Ice Cream and Home Slice. We've got a number of other, Kirby Lane is talking with us, that we've got a number of companies that are saying, yes, oh, Antonelli's Cheese. If you give on make a gift on Amplify Austin Day, these companies will give you a little bit of a perk if you show them your receipt for giving. That's so fun, so great. Okay, the last thing I want you to know is that Amplify Austin Day, our nonprofits on that day at amplifyatx.org are organized by cause categories. And so you can go in and search for the thing that you care most about. You can search for the organizations that are working on the environment. You can search for the organizations that are working with older adults. You can search for the organizations that are working with our queer communities, right? You can search for all of those things. It makes it so easy to find the thing you care about and give to that thing. But, and here's why we're talking today, one of the things that we've noticed is that there are certain categories that are just imperative that don't seem to get the same attention. And so one of the things that we realized is that we needed to do a little bit more education to our donors, to our community about the entities and about the categories that don't get the attention that they really deserve. And so today we are talking to some brilliant people about three of the categories that don't get as much attention. And so with that, I'm going to ask our brilliant panelists to introduce themselves. Um, if I could start with you, Perry. Perry, would you mind telling us um, who you work for, what your day job is, and also how it is that you and your company got involved with the sports and recreation category and what it really means to you all? Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
You would think, post-COVID, that shouldn't be an issue, but here we are. Um, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for having us, Piper. My name is Perry Trevelyan. I am the Engagement and Impact Associate Director, and I just flipped that for Spurs Sports and Entertainment. I am part of the Impact team. I'm here in Austin, so I'm serving Central Texas, and sports and the recreation category for us, it feels like a no-brainer, right? We're a basketball team, but what's really important to us is to be as effective off the court as we are on the court. And so what that means is getting out into the community, listening and knowing some of the places where we can land and be helpful. So we're super excited to be on this call today. Or part of our role is access. And so it's an important category to us because it's not a given that everyone has access to safe play. And places to grow and to develop those skills that we all love and we take into adulthood. So again, thank you for having us. And yeah, looking forward
Thank
to
you.
the
I love that.
conversation.
I love moving beyond the court. That's just it's gorgeous. Thank you so much, Perry. Julie, I'm going to move to you. Can you tell us about you, about who you work for, and about your work with the disaster relief nonprofits in our community?
Absolutely. Piper, thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. And my name is Julie Johnson, and I work for the Central Texas Community Foundation. I am the associate director and have been here at this community foundation for about 3 years, a little over three, and in the community foundation space for goodness, I think almost 15, which is, where does the time go?
I
Um,
know.
for those of you that are not as familiar with the community foundation, we are distinct from other nonprofits in that we're able to support a very broad range of organizations and donors that are interested in all kinds of different things. So usually a nonprofit is specifically focused on one area like disaster relief. And as a community foundation, we're able to support a really wide range of things. We have three primary constituencies, donors, nonprofits, and then the community at large. And we like to act like a bridge connecting the
Mm.
donors and the nonprofits to be able to find each other. So for those donors that are interested in a particular issue, we want to help them be as strategic as they can through a variety of financial services. And nonprofits, we want to provide them opportunities, connections, grant opportunities so that they can also further their mission. So we like to we kind of have our hands in a lot of different things, and very often when donors are doing what they love to support and nonprofits are on mission, then the community is going to hugely benefit from that, and there's more impact. So that's the space that we like to work in. For disaster relief, that hits all three of those constituencies. I've worked with one of my first big projects was disaster relief in the community foundation space for a private entity for a national company, and I still have the privilege to get to work on that project. And to date, I think they've given over $7 million to their employees for disaster relief. And then we also have been very engaged with the recent Central Texas floods and distributing direct relief to individuals impacted by that.
Love that. Thank you, Julie. I really appreciate that. You and Perry both talk a lot about bringing it out to the community, and I really building that community is really where we all are right now. Summer, hi.
Oh,
Summer recently rolled off the board of I Live Here, I Give Here. Okay, it was like 3 weeks ago, but I already miss her. So, Summer, please tell us about what you do in your day job and a little bit about your connection to the military and veterans affairs world.
yeah. So thanks for having us, Piper. And so in my day job, I work at Consuela. And as far as our connection in the community, I would say community has always been at the heart of what Consuela does. And so from the very beginning, the founder, Connie Reed, she always wanted to uplift and support women. And so we have one of our programs, which is It's Not About the Bag, that celebrates women every month. They get a surprise recognition from a friend or family member or a neighbor who nominated them for the award. And the beautiful thing about that is it's all about going out there and just saying, we see you, you're amazing. Thanks for the way that you show up and you make a difference. And it can be from stay-at-home moms to people at their jobs to, someone at their doctor's office. It's just beautiful how this is just a moment to say you're doing great things and thank you for what you do. So that's one of our programs. We also have our Consuela Connects program, which is our give back program with our stores. And so we partner with local nonprofits in our three stores in Austin, Katy, and in Smithville. And nonprofits get 20% of the sales during their give back party. So that's an initiative that we'll be celebrating 3 years this July that's been around. And my connection to the military community specifically is I grew up as a military brat. My dad served 24 years in the Air Force, and I spent a good part of my early part of my career serving military families. So I would just say it's part of my DNA. I've always had a heart for veterans and military families and just giving back to that community.
And Summer, I think you know this, but we're going to be Consuela's doing something very generous around Amplify Austin Day and doing a give back on Amplify. So thank you for that.
We're
Um,
super excited about that.
I would love to hear from you, Summer, a little bit about nonprofits working with military families and with veterans. What have you seen? How did you get involved working with the nonprofits serving that community? And can you tell us a little bit about the importance of the work that those nonprofits do with that community?
Yeah, so I would say the way I got involved with the military families as far as supporting them through nonprofits is really because they were at our job. So my prior employer, they brought the nonprofits to us, and so they had what we called drop-in volunteer activities. So like on your lunch break, you had an opportunity to volunteer and give back, and so it was a way to meet a lot of different nonprofits that were serving the military community and find an organization or a passion area of yours, from things as building a care kit for a deployed soldier or writing a card for, to encourage somebody that's in the military or, their parents are currently serving in another location, to military kids, to doing just all kinds of, making the no-sew blankets. I mean, there was just lots of different activities that came in, and we were able to do those in like a short time frame, 15 to 20 minutes on your lunch break. And that allowed me to see and meet a lot of different nonprofits and then find a passion area of mine, of an area that I really enjoy doing, and then get more involved with that organization and start giving back in a bigger way once I found that. So I really would say, it's just an opportunity. There's so many great ways to give back to the military community, whether you're a creative person or you like drawing or you like building things or you want to do some small things behind the scenes. There's so many organizations that need your support in a lot of different capacities that whatever you can do, I would say there's an opportunity for you to do that.
You got our board of I Live Here, I Give Here engaged in writing notes for folks that had gone to visit Arlington National Cemetery and were coming back from that really, or going to on that really impactful trip. That was phenomenal. Thank you for bringing that to us. Is there anything else I probably said that wrong. Do you want to rephrase what I said to say
No,
it's
yeah,
awesome?
you're on the right track. We got a chance, an opportunity to support Honor Flight as a board, and that was a really great opportunity. I think moments like that is a way to bring in the military community into your spaces. We played a couple of clips from the Honor Flights, getting to see them in the airport. So even though we weren't physically at the airport with the Honor Flight, we were able to play some clips, and the team could see like this is what happens. This is the opportunity when a veteran gets to go to DC and land at the airport and get celebrated and just thanked for their service. And then mail call is a really special moment on the flight where they get like this large envelope, this yellow envelope with like hand-drawn cards from, elementary schools and letters and short notes from people. And so for many of the folks who go on that flight, the veterans who go on that flight, you hear stories that they kept those letters and cards years later. Like they went on that flight and that packet of cards that they got, they still have them. I have a friend of mine, she's like, my grandpa kept his. Every single one of them that he got in that packet, he kept. And so I think it's a beautiful thing because it does give you a chance to do something, even if it's in a small way. You're like, okay, I'm writing just a couple of cards, but it really makes a lasting difference for someone to hear thank you. Some of them don't know that their service meant that much.
And Summer, I'm going to ask this in just a minute, but I'm super curious about why sometimes the veterans and military affairs nonprofits are a little bit overlooked. But we're going to get to that for just a second. Thank you for all of that, Perry. I'm gonna ask you to talk a little bit about the nonprofits that are working to provide sports and recreation in our community, and particularly to our kids, and sort of how you got started working with those nonprofits and the importance that they play here in our community.
Yeah, sure. I think many moons ago, Coach Popovich said, I want to create a league that allows any kid that wants to play to be able to get out there and play. And so moving from that, and that's of course the Spurs Youth Basketball League, but there are hundreds of leagues around Central Texas. And so I'm probably not going to go there and name any because I'll miss someone and be in big trouble later. But we do a lot of work with rec centers and sports leagues just because you can't assume that everyone has access, right? And so it may be second nature for you and I to go down the street to a rec center or across the street to a park. Or to be able to join a team. That's not the case for everyone. And so access and supporting that access through the nonprofits is super important because it's beyond physical activity is great. Yes, and we all need it. But especially for youth, that exposure creates confidence. It builds leaders. Years from now, when you're in high school and college, there's studies that show that women in C-suite positions most likely played through high school, and some of us into D1 sports. And so the skills that you learn as a result are just so impactful that it's important that all of us have that same access. And so, one, we're creating access, but we're also developing a sense of inclusion and belonging. So, I don't have to be the best basketball player, but I can get out there with my neighbors and I can do my best job. And I'm part of a team. I'm part of something that's moving. It's a movement. And so, I'm part of my community. I'm part of a team. I might not be the best. I might be the best. I might have red hair. I might have blonde hair, but we're all moving forward together. We're part of a team. We're working together. And that teaches skills that are invaluable from 4 to 104. And that's really, I think if we probably had to prioritize what we do out in the community, it's creating access and then helping teach inclusion and belonging and how important that is. And a
I
lot of
did
that happens through sports.
I didn't know that stat about C-suite women playing sports through high school. Do
Mhm.
you, I'm going off script here. Do you all do things specifically around women and girls and getting women and girls engaged in basketball in particular?
Absolutely. And not just basketball, any sport. If you're a girl, play a sport. Or be in the band. Do something that creates you to be part of a movement, right? Because it teaches leadership skills and it helps you build confidence where you might not have it otherwise. That's not to say that every president had played volleyball or basketball, but a good portion will. I mean, I would encourage you all in your conversations with leadership teams to just ask, did you play a sport when you were younger? And you will find that many will raise their hand and say yes. Some of us didn't do it well, but we were still out there. Um, but
I, when I
yeah,
when I got the basketball, I maybe ran around with it. Maybe the entire gym cheered when I finally made a shot, but I was out there.
but you were out there and you were doing your best. Fun story. I played basketball in middle school, and the coach pulled me aside at one point and said, maybe the band is a better option for you. And so that's what I did. I played clarinet through high school, but I still was part of a unit, right? And so I still got
Yeah.
those skills. And so if we can just help the community understand how important that is, I think we've done our job.
I love that. Thank you, Perry. I really appreciate it. Julie. Okay, Julie. So the nonprofits that are working in disaster relief, whether we're talking about the floods, whether we're talking about the freeze that happened, um, I think that environmentally, we're going to see more and more problematic weather events. Tell us a little bit about the importance of the nonprofits that are really working to provide disaster relief in our community and how Central Texas Community Foundation started working with those nonprofits.
Yes, absolutely. But I feel like I need to make two comments. First, for
Please.
summer, that my grandfather-in-law went on an honor flight, and his experience was exactly what you depicted. And it's hard to even put into words just how incredible it was. He was in his 80s and still quite active. There were people lined up on the street, strangers that he had never met, to send him off on the flight. And when he came home with signs and balloons, he was in an assisted living facility at the time. And they just rolled out the red carpet for him. He was on the news, it was in the local newspaper, and it was just an absolutely incredible experience for him and our family to get to see that. So thank you for that because it's amazing. And Perry, as far as sports go, sports, I will say, kept me out of trouble in large measure growing up because I was too tired or too busy trying to juggle all of the things to get into much trouble. And so not only was it, keeping me out of some things that could have taken me on a different trajectory, but I also learned all of the team and managing loss, learning to fail,
Mm.
trying and not winning and pushing through that and injuries and just the resilience that sports and teams and the relationship building skills that you learn in that setting are so important. And so I love and appreciate all that both of you are doing in the space you're working in. So thank you. For disaster relief, I will say, goodness, it's kind of hard to even know where to start.
Sorry, I gave you too much.
It's a big one. So I'll try to break it down into maybe some more manageable pieces. For disaster relief, it falls into different phases. So there's the initial, we're in the middle of a disaster. Actually, it starts before that, but what most people see and what's usually visible is a disaster hits and people rush in to help. That is neighbors that help that step in. It's local and state officials, depending on the disaster. It is nonprofits. It's local, your local philanthropist that is a donor that is giving of one of their 5 T's in the moment. So there's that immediate response to what has happened, like with the Central Texas floods. How can we help? What can we do? Groups like I will name a few groups, but like Perry, I don't want to forget anyone. So there, so many people are familiar with the Red Cross, Austin, and locally Austin Disaster Relief Network, Crisis Cleanup, some that are just absolutely essential in the moment when that disaster has hit and the immediate aftermath to have people come in and help like with the floods to clean out their homes to help them try to recover what they could. They needed food, they need shelter, they need safety, and they need that immediately. And so the way nonprofits help, Red Cross and Austin Disaster Relief, they do fundraising in the moment, but they're ready to go. They're able to have boots on the ground immediately because of fundraising that happened before that actual disaster. Because if they waited until a disaster happened to try to have everything ready to go, it wouldn't work very well. So because they have done the pre-planning, they are ready to go before the disaster hits. And that is hugely important to have the resources already set up, ready to go, to have teams that you can activate when you need them for, whether it's food, safety, shelter, rescue, whatever that may be. So then a little bit further down, once things have, like with the, I'll use the floods as the example just because that's prominent on a lot of
Yeah.
people's minds. And interestingly, my sister works at the Community Foundation in Kerrville, the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country. So we always tend to share stories and ideas and that kind of thing. But with this very unique flood situation, that happened even more so, and we were able to really learn from each other. And our community foundations work a little bit differently. They give directly to other nonprofit organizations. And that's one model. And our model is giving directly to individuals. And so they take it's different processes, it's different steps, it's different people involved. But the point is, there are a lot of different ways to do disaster relief. I've also worked with a national company where they had a series of really unfortunate instances and situations with a number of their employees over the course of a week or two, and said, hey, we need to have a way to respond to our employees. And so under the Community Foundation umbrella, they set up a 501c3 so that it's tax deductible for donors and there's no tax impact for the recipients of those funds. There's a rubric, and here, you have to follow, you have to meet the criteria that makes you eligible for a relief payment. But then we're able to give money directly to individuals. And oftentimes in disasters, one of the biggest things that they need is cash assistance. Sometimes hotel rooms are provided and meals are provided and clothing is provided. And once you get after that immediate response and you start to get into okay, now let's assess and see where we need to go from here and how we're going to get back to our normal routines and our normal lives, often what you need the most is just cash. And so organizations that can step into that space and meet at the different phases, the immediate need, and then a little bit further down the road of stabilization, and then even further down the road with complete rebuilding, depending again on the situation of the individuals and the disaster. There are so many nonprofits and so many people that are involved in each of those phases, local churches and their members as they activate in their community. They're able to sometimes kind of adopt a family, whether it's someone that's in their congregation or just in their neighborhood that's located in their proximity. They're able to step in and provide direct, meaningful help and support to people that we have local state government officials and resources that can get deployed. But sometimes it takes longer for some of that to get there, and it takes some time to assess what the situation is. And if it's an organization like a local church that's in the neighborhood, they're able to just get busy right then and be the hands and feet that help bring the support, the relief, the rescue that is needed.
Yeah.
What
Thanks.
else?
Yeah, that nonprofit backbone is so imperative in disaster relief for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, nonprofits are imperative in each of these areas, and I think what's interesting, and I want to go back to the question that sort of came up at the end of Summer's remarks, is just why is it, do you think, that the nonprofits in this particular category that you're talking about are sometimes more overlooked? What is it about this issue area that means that nonprofits don't always receive what they really need to thrive? Perry, can you start by talking a little bit about the sports and recreation? What do you think it is about that particular category of nonprofits that people don't always think, oh, yes, that's where I need to give. Girls need sports so that they'll become leaders. Oh, no, we need community. Oh, I need to give kids things to do so that they're not messing around with other things. What do you think it is about that category?
Think it's a couple of things. I think for starters, most sports teams, whether it's a rec team or a recreation center, you've got your head down and you're doing the work. And you're probably short-staffed and stretched too thin. And so you're not out and about at all the events that give you access to network with other people who might potentially be helpful. You may or may not have that creative person on your staff that can do all the things to get you exposure socially. And so I think for a long time, the buzz has been, you got to have a storyteller. You got to have a storyteller so that you keep your name and what you're doing at the forefront of people's thoughts when they're giving. If you don't have that, then you could be doing a stellar job, creating lots of impact for a lot of youth, and no one knows about you. Outside of the family or the community that you're closest to. So I think that's part of it. And part of what we are telling folks is resource kind of, we consider ourselves a bridge in a lot of instances. And so what we're telling folks is you don't always have to write a check. You can be that volunteer who is really good on social media. And so you can help that team get the exposure that they need and help get the messaging out and why it's important for XYZ nonprofit, whether it's supporting girls in sports or a community that is underserved that needs that additional support, you can help be that storyteller. Of course, you can write a check. That's always welcome. That's great. You can also be a volunteer, and so they're not stretched so thin, so that they're people that are able to do some forward thinking. If you're a coach and you're also the person that's doing the building lockup and the reach out to parents and the travel planner, it's hard. It's really hard for you to be 5 roles.
And be
it
social
happens a
media
lot in
manager.
nonprofits.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that we assume that people that have these leagues, they're all knowing and they've got, they're great storytellers and they've got their stuff together. They do, but they need help. And they need help kind of getting their name out there.
I love that. I love that because you're absolutely right. The person who is on the court working with kids one-on-one is not necessarily the person who's going to be on social media talking about
Right.
the impact that this is having on those kids' lives. You're absolutely right. Thank you. That's really helpful. It's very insightful. I'm not coming to these questions in a contrived way where I think I know the answers. It's actually it's your brilliance is very helpful. Thank you. Summer, tell me a little bit about the veteran and military space. Why is it that's oftentimes those nonprofits are not front of mind, are not sort of where we're thinking about. And I'm not saying for everyone. I think there are a lot of people that think about those nonprofits, but I think in the bigger community, what happens there?
Yeah, so I would say part of it when I think about it is also the just the knowledge and awareness of these organizations, right? So some of the names of these organizations, I think when you're not in the military space or in the veteran space, you don't hear them come up as often, right? So you don't hear about the comfort crew that supports military kids, or you don't hear about the Hero Center unless you've already either been in there or you've actually, volunteered there for before. You don't hear that some of these other organizations as well. So I think part of it is awareness, like they're just knowing like who is helping the military families or who is doing some of the work. I think that's part of it is just not enough awareness of it. The other thing I would say is there's also in the military community, there's a lot of transition. So a lot of folks are in a location for a season and then they're moving on. And so I think the support for these organizations, it ebbs and flows because you may be living in the greater Central Texas area today and be a huge advocate for that organization. And now, 2 or 3 years later, you're living in Washington, D.C. And so whether or not you still feel as connected to give here, or you may be now giving and supporting in where you live in D.C. And so I think that can also be part of it too, is that their strongest supporters sometimes are in this region for a season. And so I feel like they're always rebuilding and trying to get more folks to come out and volunteer with them and support them. So it's a continuous cycle. I also would point out that there's some organizations that are doing some really good work that support veterans and military families and kids, that it's not the only service they provide as well. So there's folks that are doing this work that it's a part of their programming, but it's not their entire programming. So that's the other thing that I think is really interesting as well as we think of this space is there's organizations that's 100% what they're dedicated to, but there's also some organizations in our community that it's a part of their portfolio of work that they're doing as well.
Can I ask for an example?
Sure. So when I think of a couple of examples, I mean, come to mind to me is like an organization like Hearts to Heal. So their executive director is a veteran. So Maria has served in the military. And so as part of her programming, she does some work with veterans, but the entire programming that Hearts to Heal does is not 100% veteran focused, right? Some of the programming is
Yeah,
Dress for Success Austin would be another example.
yeah, perfect example.
They've
Yeah,
upped their
yeah.
programming for veteran women that are transitioning into their new workspace after the military community, but 100% of Dress for Success programs is not veteran, serving veteran women, but they have definitely upped their work in the last year to serve more veteran women.
Awesome. Thank you. Summer took me to the Dress for Success Austin dinner. It was so great. It was just really inspiring. And to your point, I should have remembered that a lovely portion of what they do is work with female veterans. So thanks, Summer. Julie, talk a little bit about why it is that the disaster relief nonprofits sometimes don't get the year-round attention funding that they need.
I think it's probably a fairly obvious one is that when a disaster hits, there's a lot of focus, a lot of media attention, a lot of images on social media, on TV that come across our screens, and there are so many just generous, compassionate people, and when their hearts are pulled, they see these things and it stops you in your tracks when you see what happened with the floods and see the impact that it's had on people's lives. And people naturally they want to help. The vast majority of people just they want to know, how can I participate in helping these people? I was, blessed enough to not be impacted in that same manner. So how can I help? And so it's directly involved. It's directly connected to the an a disaster or a natural disaster, whatever the situation may be, hits, there's a lot of coverage for it. And then as the coverage goes away, it's everybody gets back to their normal lives. They go back to their routines, taking care of their families, going to work, getting the kids to school, all of those kind of things. And most people are living pretty busy lives. And so it's hard to keep up with all of the things that are going on. So it's not a lack of awareness.
It's out of sight, out of mind. It's,
Mhm,
but to
mhm,
your point, I loved what you said about how disaster relief organizations, nonprofits they need the money all the time because you never know when something's going to hit, when they're going to need. So they can't spend down. They have to have those coffers in place so they can buy the trucks and or take the trucks and get the hotel room. So that's really
mhm.
interesting. I think I would love to hear from each of you, and I won't. You can choose when you speak, but what would happen if we didn't have the nonprofits working in this area? Any of you have thoughts about what it might look like if we didn't have nonprofits in this space?
I can give a really easy one, really quick, because we just had, the fun part of the foundation work is not the only fun thing, but one of the really fun things is distribution of the money
Mhm,
that generous donors have entrusted to us.
mhm,
And over the course of the last, we completed round one for the flood relief payments back within recent weeks. But we got to give out $3.3 million, and that was checks to individuals. Anywhere from I think the smallest was 500 to 1,000, all the way up to the cap of $100,000. And so we were able to hand out those checks. The people were, there's so many incredible stories of people showing up and saying, this is I've never heard of this. This doesn't happen. This will, this will buy my new home. This will replace my car that I lost and the clothing, and it won't replace the pictures and family memorabilia, but this gets us back to a place where we can establish some routines. And then after that, after that initial shock, after the stabilization, then oftentimes what is forgotten is the mental health aspect, particularly with the floods and some of the harrowing accounts that people had. Not only are they trying to get to a place of stabilization with their just everyday life, once that happens, then it's trying to find the time and space and resources to be able to address some of those mental health components. Just what some of those people went through is just absolutely devastating, on a physical level, but then on an emotional level, and what they saw and what they encountered and the nightmares and the learning to deal with that traumatic event. There are nonprofits that are able to step into that space for that long-term recovery. Um, those needs will just go unmet, whether they're the physical needs or the emotional needs. Those just won't be met. They'll just be trying to get through and not getting the help that they need.
Yeah, it'll be basic survival,
Hmm.
rather
Hmm.
than the thriving that they so deserve, especially after a trauma like that. Yeah. Um, thank you.
And Julie, echo what you're saying. As part of the sports community, we created Texas Sports for Healing. And so when the summer floods happened, basically all of the teams in Texas came together and we created opportunities to support the Hill Country area. And so what we were told in some of those initial meetings is that support will be needed for years to come, not just through the end of this year or next year, but for many years moving forward. So 100%, we have to plan for support, specifically for mental health support for communities that face those types of tragedies. I think, Piper, to your question, what happens when those specific types of nonprofits aren't available, sports and recreation, is that we create gaps in access. And you never want to see that happen in a community, because mental health, your physical health, your family's ability to have a safe space to go and to breathe, to grow, to communicate with your community, all of those things they go away. If you don't have someone there actively trying to fund keeping that park up to date, keeping teams in gyms, keeping children active, giving young adults, Julie, as you said, a place to go and to feel safe. You lose access to that and you create gaps in your community, that makes it an even more divisive community. And we're all trying to not have that happen. There was a collective shrug of our shoulders, Piper, when you asked that question. We were like, oh, don't say that the nonprofits go away, because they just have to be here, right? We need them for communities to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you,
Like,
Perry. You're absolutely right. And somewhere I think you're going to build on the longer term support. So I'm going to let you talk. Sorry.
Yeah, I just was gonna say I like what both Julie and Perry said. I like what Perry's last line is, we need them to survive. I think for me, one of the first things that comes to mind when I think of like veterans in the military community is the fact that the word community itself, right? So when I think about the nonprofit space, in the military community, there's a lot of dependency on having connections and having a sense of community. So like when your spouse is deployed, like the mom across the street helps you, the nonprofit that provides, services for your kids, they're helping you, right? And so when they go away, like that person doesn't have like how do they balance all of this while their spouse may be deployed, or their spouse is out for training. And so I think there's so much goodness that nonprofit brings, like from support and from helping someone with their career transition or helping their kids, navigate a new school and a new community, that when they're not there, I feel like that it's a lot for that person to balance all on their own. So there's so much that they help them with integrating into the community and feeling supported that I feel is really important, especially for veterans and for military families.
I thank you all. And Perry, it's such a great point about our shoulders dropping. Okay, so let's bring the shoulders back up. And the last thing I would love to hear from you all is just, so we're going into Amplify Austin Day. We've got literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits, 14,000 nonprofits in Central Texas, but about 750 participate in Amplify Austin Day. And as we're heading into that, what would you say to people who are trying to figure out what they might support, where they might go? How would you encourage them? What would you encourage them to do in regards to the nonprofits that you care most about? And Summer, if it's okay, I'm going to start with you. Tell us when you're thinking about those nonprofits working in the military and veterans community space, what would you say to people about supporting those nonprofits?
Yeah, I would say encourage you. I mean, I know we all have various causes that we love and we support and you may already be involved with. So I want to acknowledge that there's already some love in your heart for some other organizations in the community. So I would encourage you go to the tab with search by cause category because I live here. I Give Here team has done a great job of actually creating these cause categories. I use them all the time. Go over there, check out a new cause, right? Come over and hang out with us on the military and veterans cause tab for a minute. Read about a couple of organizations. I mean, that's how I learned about some new nonprofits over the last year. Was I just checked out a few on the page, and so I would say do that. And then from a giving perspective, here's something I do just on a personal note. You do it as you see fit, but I call it like my taco giving. So I love these specific tacos in our city, and I get them occasionally. And so what I do is I call it my taco money. And so there's nonprofits I'm going to always give to, but then I try to give to like one or two new ones. And I kind of tell myself, okay, so those one or two new ones I'm going to give, I'm going to cut back on a couple of times going to get tacos, right? And so it's a way for me to be able to like support, even if it's in a small way, right? It's like a small way to give to something new that I'm like, oh, this is really, I love what they're doing. I already have these other categories I'm supporting. But if I cut back on a few tacos, I could actually give in this other category. So that's just my way of staying on budget. And I know we all have different budgets, but that's my way of staying on budget is I cut back a little bit around Amplify Austin Day on my budget, on my taco budget, and I give to a new cause.
Thank you. That's very generous. And giving up tacos is much harder than giving up coffee. So I'm very grateful to you for that. Um, Julie, what would you say to folks about giving to the nonprofits and the disaster relief?
I want to make one other, I guess, observation from the previous question, though. Often the nonprofit sector is considered or can be referred to as the third sector. So we have government, we have private sector, businesses, and then there's kind of everything else. And so, in whether it's a disaster or everyday life, government, state, local, and federal, they're doing their jobs, but they're not all encompassing. It doesn't cover everything that is needed in a community. And businesses, they're providing goods and services for people. And those businesses are also creating jobs and creating opportunity. And so they can redirect their resources. And we saw this so many times from generous local and nationwide businesses of saying, hey, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're going to do it for the good and benefit of these people that are experiencing this disaster. And then there's just kind of everything else that doesn't fall into those two categories and the needs being met through those other two sectors. And so it's already a little bit of a harder group because there isn't a natural fit necessarily in the government or in a private sector setting for those needs to be addressed and maybe the cost covered for them. And so the creativity that takes place in nonprofits is phenomenal. And there's so many groups just doing great work. And I feel like that is everybody's got their role, government, businesses, nonprofit sector, donors, we all have a different role. And when everybody's doing their role, it works a whole lot better together and they're all essential. So I just wanted to make that point. Let's see, your question about, oh,
What do you
sorry.
want to tell people about why they should give to the disaster relief nonprofits?
Yes, and what I would say is now's the time to do a little bit of research. I love Summer's, um, her approach of there's the groups that I love and I know about, and I've been involved with them from either personal experience or family and friends that have participated and said good things about them. I love the way you talk about your taco money and just finding some new groups. It's incredible the work that is being done out there, the needs that have been identified by other community members. And now is the time to do a little prep work. Go out there and research. If it's in the disaster relief setting, go check out some of the, there's so many news stories out there right now about different organizations that have been participating and supporting the victims of the floods and freezing temperatures and all the things that are going on. Go out there now when it's not a crisis. Do a little bit of research and find two or three that you're like, yes, I want to support the people that are organizing all of the volunteers to go help people. I want to support the ones that are feeding the people that are showing up with their trailers and their trucks to cook and provide the food. Figure out the things that are most exciting to you that you could give of one of the five T's, whether it's your time or your talent, your whatever that is. But just a little bit of research now on the groups that have been involved in disaster relief and find one that you really connect with their mission. And that way you'll be ready to go and you'll already have the boots on the ground information because when a disaster hits, it's really too late. The organizations are so busy trying to meet the need that it's really hard to stop and have a conversation with them about their mission and their vision. And there's too many other things going on. So now's the time to help equip them to be ready for that next disaster because it's not a matter of of if, but when.
Absolutely. Do it now because we never know. We never know when we're going to be the ones that need help from the disaster relief. We never know when a family member of ours is going to need help from a Veterans Affairs nonprofit. We never know when the kiddo down the street or in our house is going to need help from a nonprofit that is working with recreation and with sports. So, agreed. Y'all, thank you so very much for your time today. Thank you for all of your brilliance, and thank you for everything you're doing in the community. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to put up this recording, but we're also going to use this content on social because we want everyone to know about the great work that you all know about, the great work being done with the nonprofits in sports and in military affairs and in disaster relief. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Bye.
Bye.